It's just not cricket. Now, this is an old fashioned phrase, but I think it's quite apt to describe India's actions in the ongoing Asia Cup. The first action, of course, was to play with Pakistan, despite the fact that there was a huge public outcry against the decision, given how raw our emotions are after the Pahalgam terror attack and Operation Sindoor. The second action that India took, which is the Indian cricket team refusing to shake hands with their Pakistani counterparts after winning the match played against it. Now, don't get me wrong, politics and sports have always been intertwined. We've seen many global examples of how politics has used sports to achieve political ends. The Asia Cup controversy is one such example. What these events do is they allow us to define and refine what we think we are, who we think we are, and what we stand for. To unpack what this Asia Cup controversy means on all those counts, I'm talking to Sharda Ugra. As you know, she is my favorite go to person to talk about sports and everything that comes out of sports. Sharda, thank you for making time.
Hi, Anuradha. Thank you. Happy to be here, even though this is such a messy and frustrating subject to be talking about.
Let me ask you directly, which side were you on? Should India have played with Pakistan in the Asia Cup?
I mean, my side was on that had your government given you permission to play, because India Pakistan is directly related to what the government says, then you play. That's how simple it was. You literally had to follow the government's order, which is what you did. Now the government's order becomes a complicated thing because the government has its sort of entanglements inside cricket itself, which are very deep. So therefore, then you are talking media rights, then you're talking broadcast values, you're talking all those things. If I said this a couple of days ago that look, if you really wanted to make a statement about how much like the statement that you did, you could have forfeited the match against Pakistan. You could have said, we are coming to the Asia Cup because it's a tournament that we believe we should play. We believe we are worthy of being Asian champions. We are the strongest team, but we don't want to play Pakistan. And I'm sure they would have to go through the government again to do this. And we are willing to forfeit points and therefore try harder to make it to the knockout stage, which I was pretty comfortable they would be able to do.
Yeah.
That would have been a real statement. The fact that you say yes, you're playing, and then you don't shake hands, it just becomes becomes very bizarre. Because I'm thinking about it now, 10 years down the line, what will it look like? You didn't shake hands, okay? Then yeah, what did that change?
Yeah.
How did the situation change, or what statement did you make, or who was that meant for? So many other things. Yeah.
I find it very interesting that you say that the Indian government, which actually calls the shots about what India does via its cricket team, could have said, "Don't play with Pakistan because it's too raw." Right? Operation Sindoor, the terror attack, the war that is Operation Sindoor are too raw, too close. So we will not play with Pakistan, and we will forfeit the matches and the points that could have been won. Why do you think they didn't do that?
uh, the thing is, it is raw, it is very very close, it's just a few months away. And these sort of situations have happened again and again, where there has been India and Pakistan have been involved in actually a military conflicts, there have been deaths, there have been terror attacks, that Pakistan has been accused of being a part of, and all of it, and the cricket has been managed to sort of stumble its way ahead. The reason it didn't happen is beyond me, why there was not this kind of option, why this option was not taken. Because what's also happened to this India Pakistan fixture, Anuradha, is that now it has become like this cash cow. Now they say it's a cash cow. I want to see the numbers. Show me the receipts, as they say. I want to see what it actually means in viewer terms, say over the last 5 years, because it's not as intense a match as it used to be, because the quality of the teams is very very different. But at the same time, at every multilateral cricket fixture, they do what I call cooking the group. They put India and Pakistan in the same group. What another option that you could have done in a situation like this is say, fine,
Put
we'll
them in.
have them in two separate groups. Let's see how this plays out. That's also fine. But for you to do this in this cynical and manipulative way, and then to get outraged that it's happening, is bizarre. And to then say that no, it's the BCCI that has done this. Are you saying the government has no control over the BCCI's functioning? Are you saying the BCCI's officials will not listen to what you say. This is not the era of Jagmohan Dalmia, who's a different, or even Mr. Srinivasan, who are different kind of cricket administrators. This is a very different kind of almost client cricket administration that is functioning. So, why has this been allowed to happen? To me, it looks like a performative, and it looks like a manipulative sort of situation that was created. It looks like a commercial situation that was then taken advantage of to I don't know what degree anymore, and then it's the social media circus that happened. I mean, that's the way that I see it. I mean, the people that are involved in government, for example, have a say in cricket. Don't tell me that they don't. You know?
So that would be willful blindness if you were to believe that the government has nothing to do and does not call the shots where Indian cricket is concerned. But there are people who believe that when it comes to sports, it should be divorced from politics. Do you belong to that school of thought, or is it impossible to be able to divorce politics and sports, and especially cricket and politics?
I think it's impossible to divorce politics from sport. And in every country, that particular element becomes a different sport. It's like it's cricket in India, it's football in another country. So it's very, very difficult to say that you have to separate it. Had it happened to say, like, you can't play because of the fact that we've had this massive military engagement with each other in May, I would have said, fine, get it, it's fine. But to do it in this double speak with this multi-layered kind of, I am more patriotic than this person who is playing. It's all very, very. It's not even very clever. It's just so transparent. I mean, even my saying that don't play the match as a sports journalist is ridiculous that I'm even saying it. But if that's how much that's how much you wanted to put at, that's how much it mattered to you. That's how big the stake was to you. So then you went ahead and did it. I would said, oh, all right, okay. But yeah, yeah, this is a very, very strange, very, very strange situation.
Uh, and we now have the Pakistan Cricket Board say that the match referee Andrew Pycroft is the problem. He's the scapegoat. He now will not, referee any of the matches Pakistan plays. All of this means nothing, right?
Nothing, nothing, because the head of the Asian Cricket Council is also the chairman of the Pakistan Cricket Board. So when the Asian Cricket Council tells the Pakistan Cricket Board, it's like he's talking to himself. It happened in the Indian situation as well. It happens all the time. So you're saying Andy Pycroft apparently got instructions that the players will not be shaking hands. Whose idea was this? Where did it come from? So you're seeing that cricket teams on both sides are being made to really be puppets in this whole sort of power play, soft power play that's going on. And how does it come through when India wins the match? So then you say, okay, you're on top of it. I mean, another thing I wanted to point out, Anuradha, because I'm here, is that have you seen the Sony promos for the matches that there are? Have you seen the promo that they do for the India Pakistan match, where the Indian fan dressed in orange is leaping up? They're first sort of looking at each other. And I'm saying, who in the television industry has decided that this is the way it should go, that this is the only way you can present India and Pakistan cricket? And then at the end of it, so India and Oman, they're making fingers, they're waving, they're doing all kinds of nonsense, just again posturing. And then the Indian fan jumps up and the Pakistani fan looks a bit scared or cowed down or something. It is so gross. I know this is not part of the subject, but I thought I should put it out there.
But
Note it.
to the point you make, I think that all broadcasters, when they're lucky enough to have paid for and won those broadcasting rights, really do value the India Pakistan match in any of these multilateral championships, because they've become sort of proxies for war, isn't it? Like, you beat those guys and they are your enemies. It's all jingoistic, it's all hyper nationalism, all of that at play. And therefore the point you make, which is that given the rise of the Indian cricket team and the strength it has displayed in the last few years, and it has sort of been simultaneous with Pakistan losing its power as a team on the cricket field, you would imagine that the India Pakistan match would not draw such big, that traditional rivalry is not one really of cricket rivalry. It's really now a political rivalry that's playing out on the cricket field, isn't it?
Yeah, that's absolutely right. What you're saying is because the standard in the two team has changed so much, so that the competition is not even equal. I was trying to think of the last time we had a really, really tight and a tense India Pakistan match. That was at the World T20. This was 2021 22, around that time when they had back-to-back World T20s, where Pakistan won a match after a very long time against India. And the next match, Virat Kohli played that incredible innings where everyone thought India was going to lose, and they won the match. But that's 4 years ago. And so now it's been taken over. It's like the story has been taken over by whoever's in charge politically, whoever feels they should score points in this manner. And it's been a detriment to the game. I mean, as a fan of the game, I am just deeply saddened by what has happened and what has become, and I understand, the fact that what happened in May, I mean, that it was raw and that it was really, really painful for so many people. That the tragedy at Pahalgam was painful, but that is not the response that you should give it in this manner through Surya Kumar Yadav and his team. That's not the way. That's not the way you do it.
I think people do understand that these statements that cricketers make are created by the board who they report to and the politicians who control that board, because you don't see Indian cricketers and Indian sportsmen and women take a political stand. Like, for instance, in the US we saw the footballer Colin Kaepernick, who took you
Yes.
know who who, when Black Lives Matter was at its peak in the US a few years ago, he actually didn't stand. He took a knee at the when the national anthem played out. So you don't see Indian sportsmen and women take stands like this, do you? We don't have a history or a tradition of that.
We don't, for the simple reason that our sport is not structured in that way. So Colin Kaepernick, after he took that stand, he did not get an NFL contract at all. It's like his
Yeah.
career ended there, but he was willing to pay that price. Our sport is run, mainly it started with the government giving you jobs and so on. So there is a certain level of that. That's then I say that in Indian sport, it's the football players who play for clubs and not for national teams or state teams or government controlled teams that have the most agency. Certainly not the cricketers.
When you saw Surya Kumar Yadav's statement after this match against Pakistan, dedicating the victory to the victims of the Pahalgam terror attack as well as to the Indian armed forces, what do you make of this statement?
To my mind, this is not to sort of read Surya's mind at all. It may be something that he wished to say at that point in time. I was just wondering, had he wanted to talk about sports being about peace? I wonder whether he would have been okay to say that. Because when do you talk about peace? You don't talk about peace when there is peace. You talk about peace when there is conflict, when there is friction, when there is war. Indian athletes have always been in this position because of the way our sport has been structured. A lot of our athletes have government jobs,
Yeah.
not
Public
cricketers,
sector jobs.
public sector jobs. So it's like the wrestlers were threatened and said that they were with the railways. They said you lose your jobs, you lose your position. So you get into those kind of binds. Cricket has now cricket at some point could have had the freedom to say, but cricket's deep state or the cricket state is the BCCI. It may not even be the Union of India which has taken it over, but it's fundamentally the BCCI which now has come to stand in for that large figure that could basically wreck careers and so on. So a lot of the times you will see, when in the case of the farmers' protests, all the leading sports people had copy pasted sort of tweets that went out at that point in time, and everyone knew where that was coming from. I do know that a couple of athletes whose names I will not take refused to do that. And they said so, but the number is very, very small. It's a tiny minority of the athlete who says that, look, I mean, I'm not a part of this. It's just a lot of the statements that come out at trying and difficult times, at complicated times, tend to be written by somebody else and put out on their social media feed and so on.
In fact, one of the athletes in recent times and a champion athlete, our gold winning Olympian, Neeraj Chopra, his statements have been and his conduct, more than his statements, have been very positive about what sports can achieve, isn't it? When it comes to conflicts and it comes to people who are driven apart by conflicts.
Absolutely. I mean, there was a point in time that an Indian and a Pakistani were on a doubles team together playing in the Grand Slams. They made finals. Rohan Bopanna and Ehsam Qureshi. Could it be possible now? I mean, and you're asking, why could it not be possible now? Why shouldn't it be possible now? So, but because we've reached this situation,
Sports and politics, or what is happening in life outside of sports cannot be divorced. And because they cannot be divorced, how it is managed and how it plays out needs to be even more sensitively handled than we've seen in the most recent example where India is concerned, and that's the Asia Cup.
That's absolutely right. That we've seen that it's now spilled over in such a way. What's going to happen when they play next?
Yeah.
If they meet in another match, what is it? Maybe not now. If the women of India and Pakistan are going to play in the World Cup in the Women's World Cup in Sri Lanka, they have a game. What's going to happen there? How is that going to pan out? Who's going to say what? And you're only going to escalate this sort of resentment and anger and negative bad blood and negative feeling. Who is going to then dial it down? How is it going to happen? Are you going to cricket is going to allow the politicians to take over and decide when you can play nice. And it looks like in other sports it might just come through as well. I mean, it seems that it's a very depressing thought, but we have come to this point where there are certain hypocrisies that are playing out in the open. And as sports fans, will say, okay, don't talk about politics. Let's just enjoy sport. It's hard to swallow that after some time.
Mm. So, in this Asia Cup, do you see India and Pakistan playing again? I mean, if Pakistan beats its next opponent, isn't it?
Yeah, it's the if they make knockouts and then they win the semi-finals, it's absolutely plausible that it could happen. And there is another India Pakistan women's match that's going to happen at some point during the Women's World Cup. What are you going to do then? Is it going to get worse? Are you going to make it worse, or are you going to say, okay, now today we will shake hands? We will tell the match referee that the match referee will tell us, okay, oh, now hands can be shook. It's that absurd. That's where we are.
Yeah, but to attribute the match referee as the person who took the decision is a bit
That
is
is completely disingenuous and completely nobody believes it.
yeah.
So there was a fake tweet going around yesterday saying this is what the match referee said. Nobody believes that the match referee has that power because cricket has become a game of a ridiculous governance standard. All that's keeping propped up and moving and taken seriously by the rest of the world is the money that it generates. Its governance is at a level of utter dysfunction, and you can see it because there's nothing that is sort of thought through carefully in situations like this that is taking place. Had there been a neutral party involved in this, there was another way to have resolved this kind of situation. I'm not saying that the players are supposed to hug each other on the field or whatever. At the same time, I'm not saying that they need to be abusing each other. And can you imagine what's going through the minds of those players when they step on the field? As to what are the things they need to do, given that these players are so conscious of image and reels and social media presence and so on. Can you imagine the things that are going on in their head when they have to play a match like this? And if they have to play it again, what's going to happen? So it's the cricket's governance is like broken at a level that is just you cannot even comprehend where it is, why it is. I mean, that's the topic for another discussion, which will take a long time. But all this is happening because the governance standards across the game have been compromised, and they're fractured, and they're just run by what the BCCI wants to happen.
And that comes directly from the BCCI's commercial might, right? Which is why it has been able to break some of the structures that were in place. You want to illustrate how how cricket's governance has broken up? Give maybe another couple of illustrations where it
I
does
think
not directly
what
mention
happened.
the maybe.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is that the International Cricket Council is the governing body of the sport, and it should be a neutral body in that sense that it is whoever serves at the International Cricket Council is serving the sport of cricket. So therefore, they have to be neutral and be seen most dispassionately in every situation. We've seen a case of Jay Shah being involved in sending tweets about Operation Sindoor, sending tweets that are specifically promoting and supporting Indian cricket. So that itself is, you would hope that it would not have happened, but that is there. So it's. I mean, the CEO of of the International Cricket Council is an Indian. They decide how much money is dispensed out to other countries. So that whole position of being there for cricket and not there for the board that you belong to, that very idea, it's a very simple idea, but right now it doesn't seem to apply, doesn't seem to work. What also happens that people that come to that board from these various other cricket bodies like the Australian Cricket Board or the English Cricket Board, in their not standing up to this kind of dissonance that's happening in governance, in they're just sort of going along with it because they are protecting the commercial interests of their own boards. It is again, it's like enabling this kind of thing and allowing it to get stronger and stronger. And had it would it have happened if there'd been other officials in charge at a time like this, when the money is so large? BCCI has just signed a contract for a new sponsor, and the money's gone up and so on. I can't predict, but you would hope that there are people in cricket who have a conscience, and you would hope that they are working inside the sport. Because what's happened is that there is an error even in the broadcasting industry, even in amongst journalism. There is this silence of let's not pay attention to what's happening, especially when it comes to governance, which is seen as a boring topic to kind of write about and talk about. So it's this being enabled all the time. There's no pushback in any way, and it's allowed. I mean, these people are supported by the everyone around them. There is, it's like I was going to say something really really foul, but I won't. So you are seeing it play itself out. And in another international organization, say this was a football game or FIFA or whatever, and I'm not saying that in football they actually fight and they punch each other and the matches break into brawls. But if at an event a country doesn't show up due to a political reason or whatever reason, they just get punished. They said, no, you will not be able to play for this much time. You will not be allowed to, and they don't cook the group. They don't make sure that England and Germany or Brazil and Argentina, or all the big footballing rivalries, France and Italy and France, but that they play each other all the time. It doesn't even happen in rugby, which is, the big rivalries need to play each other. No, it started with that assumption that you let the broadcaster take control of the narrative of your sport, and now you're stuck. And now it's like you can't think of what else you have to do. So once you kind of, because if you're having India Pakistan play all the time you're generating this. Saurav Ganguly made a statement in which he said, I don't even think it's a competition anymore. It's become so pale. It's a pale representation of what it used to be. It's just become like, again, it's like a performative kind of thing that happens at during matches and during build ups and all the rest of it.
It's not about what's happening on the ground between the two teams in terms of the quality of cricket that's being played, right? And the
Yes.
competitiveness that was there historically, where you really didn't know the outcomes often, right? Here, because the Indian cricket team has moved so far ahead in terms of its prowess, at this point of time, the way the matches are being conducted and scheduled, it just looks like a chance to flex muscle, political and
Flex
performative.
muscle, supposedly make money. I want to know what this money is. I really want to know what those numbers are, as opposed to say a match between India and Australia, or India and England, or South Africa, or any of the other countries in the world. What is the India versus Bangladesh? Show me the numbers. Show me the receipts and tell me what's the
And,
difference of
but
this.
Shad, I think that is a point well made. I think to go back in time and look at the last 5 years of every India Pakistan match that has been played in a multilateral tournament and compare the ratings of those matches with, let's say, in India Australia, which seems to be the big grand new rivalry, isn't it? Or even India England to a certain extent. I think that whether the ad revenues and the viewership tally, whether they add up
You'd be
to the
able to,
kind of
yeah, you'd be able to tell me
mashed up
better
now.
than this. You know
Yeah.
this industry better. You'll be able to tell me better what these numbers actually mean, and what does it mean when you do it this way. But it's just, and I mean, the fact that nobody saw that this started in 2007, after the 2007 World Cup, where both India and Pakistan got knocked out, and the ICC felt, oh man, let's make sure they have at least one match, so there's no, like the collapse of our financial of our bank account. And then it just has reached the point where it's become ridiculous. It's absolutely become ridiculous. And then no other sports organization in the world does this. That's why I said it's like a joke. It's like a dysfunctional thing. That it's like, I was trying to think of a metaphor for the kind of person that the ICC is, or that the cricket is in terms of its governance. And I can't find a metaphor beyond mafia. That's not probably the right thing. Mafia guys are very tough and very focused in what they did. Yeah.
So I find it interesting that we tend to talk about how BCCI and its financial clout has resulted in the kind of cricket governance and structures that we have today. But you make a very interesting point about how other cricket boards have enabled this, right? Nobody is taking a stance because they're just all, sort of rolling over to accommodate the financial clout of one particular country's cricket board. And I
Absolutely.
think it's
And,
that
and,
you
and
pointed out.
they created this thing called the big three, which is Australia, England, and India, and now they have, that's the way they've stayed. It stayed in step with that, and they don't want it to get affected in any way. The CEOs don't want their bonuses to become less in any way. So it's just stayed like that. And I, I was just trying to imagine a world in which there's some pushback. What happens? What is going on? I mean, frankly, I think in Indian cricket, if there was IPL the whole year round, broadcasters would be happy, public would be happy, fans would be a bit distraught. But in the rest of the world, you would want there to be someone standing up to this. There used to be these fights, so Malcolm Speed and Jagmohan Dalmia were always battling. Harun Lorgat was always battling with Mr. Srinivasan. So this kind of went on, and it was a good thing because it meant that there's some pull and some pressures happening even from the biggest guy against the biggest guy in the room. This is just what bullies do, and you're just rolling over and not standing up to bullies. What are bullies most afraid of? Somebody standing up to them, but it's not happening.
Sharda, how much does it pain you that here we are sitting, a tournament is going on, a major tournament, the Asia Cup, and all we're doing is talking about the surround of, of the match, which is the politics of it.
It's dreadful. You feel terrible as a cricket fan. You feel sorry for the players. You feel sorry for the both teams on all sides. You feel sorry for the other teams. Like, why is this happening? So Bangladesh had a great win yesterday over Afghanistan. You feel horrible because this is not what your sport should be. Your sport stands for bigger and better things, and it's a great sport, and we all love it. We saw what happened during the India England Test series, how much everyone just sort of came alive, and we are now lapsed into this kind of place where we are just everyone's yelling at each other on social media. They're calling each other names. You're picking, like, finding some scapegoat who would not have been recognized on the street had he walked out at any other time other than, say, 5 days ago. And it's just awful that it's been allowed to happen. And who is it benefiting the most? It's benefiting politics on both sides. It's benefiting this hardening sort of engagement in that sense. That's who it's working for,
Are
not
you?
cricket and not the fans.
Is the Asia Cup India's to win?
Yeah, pretty much. They look like the strongest team so far. They're a very strong team. It'll be interesting to see that they're doing different things by having Bumrah bowl through, and by playing Hardik Pandya as the opening bowler, and by having the spinners step in. And I'm very happy to see Kuldeep Yadav is actually getting a game. Yeah, so it'll be. I didn't mention Gautam Gambhir's role in all this because he is seen as the most patriotic cricketer of them all.
I heard him at a function in Goa, an ad industry function, actually, the Goa Fest, and he was very, very unequivocal about cricket being used for political ends, and saying that it should not, we should not talk about sports and playing sports when there is war and people's lives at stake. He was so unequivocal. Do you want to say a word about Gautam Gambhir?
Perhaps he should have had a word with people in government whom he belongs to the same party that runs the country, and say that, look, we are willing to forfeit the game. I've talked to the boys. It's fine. We're going to do it. This is how, and we think we're good enough to still make the knockouts. That would have been a good tough call. But what do we know? We don't play the game. So what do we know?
So it's just not cricket. That's a good way to describe what's going on at this point in international cricket, in tournaments like this.
In an Asia Cup, it's been more than what cricket should be, what should it stand for. I understand all the background that it comes from, but it's terrible how it's been played out, how it's been manipulated, and how people have been used in this situation.
Thank you, Sharda, as usual. It's been enlightening. We'll keep talking.
Thank you.
And thank you very much for joining us on this conversation. Don't forget to subscribe, to like the conversation if you do like it, and please share this conversation if it gave you food for thought. Thank you. Catch us again.